Oh boy. Okay.
This is BA's best lasagna. Deep dive into the
So I'm looking at a video of me doing BA's Best Lasagna 2018 recipe. This is a dish that a lot of people want to make. It's a big celebratory dish that feeds a crowd. You're pulling out a lot of stops. Since that video came out in 2018, food costs have gone up 30 to 35%. If you were to go out and shop for all those ingredients that went into that 2018 recipe now, you'd have to spend about $125. Got a version I'm gonna do today that's gonna cost about $50. I'm Chris Morocco, and we are making my inflation-friendly lasagna. We're clapping back at capitalism today here, people. Not even gonna need that. Done. One more. The original version of lasagna and today's version both have 3 components. You've got the meat-based ragu, the bechamel, and then you have the assembly with the pasta. We're gonna start today with the meat sauce. Lentils. Okay, pitchforks down. Just stop writing in the comments. I know, and we're gonna talk about it, and it's gonna be fine. We're cooking these lentils like pasta. That means generous amount, boiling salted water. There's about 2 cups worth. There's a really vibrant tradition of pairing pasta with either beans or lentils in Italy. So we just wanted to borrow from that for our playbook today. It's gonna be okay. They're just there to round out the meaty element of our sauce. Trust me, let this come back to a boil and simmer them until they're just past al dente. And we're gonna prep the rest of our ingredients. Okay, so garlic. It's like practically free, and there's virtually no vegetable out there that is gonna work harder for you. And listen, in the original recipe, I used 6 cloves, but I figured if you're gonna buy a head of garlic, let's just use the whole thing, right? It's not gonna be too garlicky. Moving on to pepperoni. So this is a 6-ounce package of pepperoni. Pepperoni is just a mildly spicy, cured pork sausage. That's it. We think of it as pepperoni because it shows up in specific ways on pizza and calzones and hoagies and things like that. But the fact is, pepperoni gives you really good bang for your buck, but it's also gonna bring a little bit of heat, a really welcome addition when it comes to how we liven up the flavor of this meat-based sauce. We need ingredients that maybe have multiple facets to them, that can do multiple things at once. A couple tablespoons of olive oil. Everything I'm doing right now is gonna be to maximize the potential and the impact of 1 pound of meat. In the original dish, there was 3 pounds. It was 2 of ground pork, 1 of ground beef. We're just gonna use 1 pound of ground beef today. Part of the solution to how you're gonna make it work really hard for you is gonna be to really aggressively brown it. You can see oil is lightly smoking. I'm not even gonna bother to turn these into meatballs or do anything other than throw it in there with like these nice flat surfaces. I wanna take my time with this step. Achieving a really deep, even level of browning is gonna translate to more flavor. Like that's what we're talking about. That's the level of browning I want all over. So I'm just gonna scoop these out because our pepperoni and garlic are gonna come right in. At this point, I want the heat to be somewhat gentle because I don't want anything to burn. This fond is really good. It's really gonna help us maximize the impact of that relatively modest amount of meat. What we have here, we have lightly toasty, lightly crispy pepperoni, garlic that is very tender and just a little bit golden. This is a great place to be. Tomatoes are gonna come in now. Tomatoes are one more layer of how this sauce is gonna come together. So this we're just gonna let simmer 15, maybe even 20 minutes. Concentrate the tomatoes, really cook out their flavor, develop it, concentrate the sugars, the acid, everything going on in there. And then the meat's gonna come back in. So see how the sauce is starting to want to stick just a little bit. That's telling me that, okay, we're there. The tomato is really fully cooked out. What I'm gonna do at this step, I'm just gonna mash it lightly just to break up those bigger pieces of garlic, any lingering bigger pieces of tomato. Now our meat can come back in. I can also reintroduce a little bit of water just to preserve some of the sauciness here, start to break up those pieces of meat. My goal is for this sauce to simmer together for about an hour. In the original dish, we had a low temperature oven braise for the sauce component. It was about 3 to 4 hours. So it's not just about cost savings, it's about time savings as well. Second key component of our lasagna, bechamel. In the original, you'd have to spend about $50 to get all of the ingredients necessary. In today's version, you can spend just $20. Bechamel is one of these old world sauces that works so hard for you. It also carries cheese flavors really well, brings in that kind of that dairy forward, kind of punchy element. My intention is that this bechamel is essentially identical in its effect to the original. There's one major exception, which is that unlike the original, today I'm going to use olive oil as the base of my roux instead of butter. You already had to buy the olive oil to sear off your meat, to sear off some of your aromatic elements. Why not use it in a second place and make it do double duty for you? Here we are, olive oil based roux. That's a half a cup of olive oil, and I'm gonna go grab my flour. So there is a very well-established tradition of oil-based roux. We see it in things like Cajun dishes. Anytime that you want a roux that is very, very, very dark, it's gonna come from a roux that was cooked out in oil instead of butter. The reason being, in oil, you can toast that flour very deeply without anything burning. Whereas in a butter-based roux, the butter would have scorched and browned by the time the flour took on a deep level of toast. I want this to bubble, simmer, cook out, not necessarily get darker than this. Already the olive oil is giving it a little bit of a cast, but it's gonna even out by the time we've got all our milk in there. But I still wanna cook this out, still wanna just do a light toast on the flour, cook out that raw taste. So another bigger swing that we took today, okay, in addition to the lentils and the oil in the roux, is the inclusion of cheddar cheese instead of Parmesan. It's hard to compete with Parmesan on flavor. But in terms of the way that sharp cheddar can perform in lasagna, carried by a voluptuous bechamel sauce, it's pretty compelling. And the thing about sharp cheddar, of course, is that it is so widely accessible. You could shop for this at your corner bodega, deli, any grocery store is gonna have some version of this cheese. Pretty reasonable sized Parmesan could easily run you $12, $14, $16, depending on the market. This pile of cheese, about $4. Meanwhile, if it's okay, if it's not too much for you, could I talk about what's happening with our tomato sauce? The meat has started to incorporate into the sauce. This is a great time to add my lentils. So 2 cups of lentils going in, that's not a ton. My hope is that they're gonna kind of meld with the sauce, incorporate in, and that we'll be able to mash them up a little bit so that there's a pretty fluid transition between meat, lentil, and sauce. I keep going. Simmer that about 30 minutes or so more, let the flavors meld, and I'm feeling pretty good about that. Bechamel. The thing that you have to understand about it is that where it starts out is so neutral. Part of why there's crystal hot sauce lurking like a shadow, okay, in the background. This is a couple of bucks, and it can add heat, salt, acid. Now we're getting somewhere. Now I'm getting a little bit of the crystal. It's the vinegar and the heat. It's actually really fun in there. We're gonna bring in the cheese. High-sided pot is great, just so you can really work this around. Make sure you're incorporating everything. Great. Bechamel, ready. Ragu, ready. Key thing is, both of these have to taste good on their own, or they're not gonna taste good in the lasagna. First, the ragu on its own. Like the sense of meat forwardness to it, I really like that. And the pepperoni is doing some quiet, heroic work in there. It added just this little buzz of heat. Every ingredient represented here worked so hard to come together into something that feels like we used a heck of a lot more than a pound of meat and cooked it for a heck of a lot more than about 45 minutes. We turned something that was so neutral and frankly a bit blank, and we turned it into a really compelling, cheesy, rich sauce. These sauces, the intention and the care that went into them, and really making sure we had the best possible edit of ingredients, these are not dumbed down versions. These are not worse versions of the original. They're simply different. They're just using different tools to get the same objective. This doesn't feel like, you know, Freaky Friday lasagna. It's like, what is it, Tuesday? It's like Terrific Tuesday lasagna. Everything's cool. All right, it's assembly time. My objective, okay? So remember in the original lasagna, we parboiled those noodles so that they went into the assembly about halfway cooked. We're going raw noodles this time. It saves you time. Yeah, it's not necessarily saving you money, but the fact of parboiling noodles, I truly think it's something that you can skip. I've seen that really work in the subsequent years, and that's part of what's going into my my judgment on this today. So we're gonna start with a layer of about 1.5 cups of sauce. More thin layers are great. I don't want any of the layers to be too thick. Okay, I think these are gonna work best. Okay. Basically 3 is like a little bit scant, but I also think we're just gonna shift up kind of where we arrange them for each subsequent level. I wanna essentially paint the bechamel onto the noodles here. Okay, so that's layer number 1. This is looking like a pretty heroic lasagna. At this stage of the game, it looks almost identical, you know, to the original version. A little bit of extra cheese here. This will just mean the lasagna is gonna brown even more readily when we do the uncovered phase of the bake. I'm really into how this is looking. I'm gonna oil up some foil, just in case the foil dips down onto the surface. A little bit of oil does a really nice job of making sure that nothing sticks too badly. Cover it, we're gonna get it into the oven. This part of the process is identical to the original. So 325 to start, covered until it's bubbling, totally heated through. Uncover, raise the temperature, get that brown bubbling top. All right. Oh yes, this is what we're talking about. This is what the whole day was for. Look at that. All right, we are ready to start slicing into this bad boy. The corner slice, you know, first piece taken out, especially when it's a little on the warmer side. Always a little bit of first pancake energy, so nobody, you know, scream or anything. But that's looking pretty good. Wow, it's so meaty savory. It's actually like kind of wild. The bechamel, I think, is performing admirably in there. The pasta texture is very good. The lentils feel very pleasantly incorporated into the meaty mixture. It certainly feels like a very luxurious, celebratory lasagna. It doesn't feel like we held anything back here, and that was really what we set out to achieve. Yesterday, I was describing to Deputy Food Editor Hannah Asbrink what I was intending to do today, and she was mildly outraged about the lentils, questioning. You know, you had a few notes, and I think part of the—
Opposed. But open-minded. Notable difference.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous, I will say.
It's very savory.
I love a bechamel lasagna too, so I love that you leaned into that. Also, you know, being able to save money is great, but the texture is so nice. The noodles are great. It's very tasty, and the texture has not been compromised overall. So
Yeah.
I would consider this a win.
I think the remarkable thing is we probably eliminated almost 2/3, at least 50% of the ingredients on the shopping list required for this dish. This, I think, was super valuable in showing that you can make something super impressive, doesn't feel like you've capitulated. With a little bit of know-how in the kitchen, I think you can make your ingredients and your budget work really hard for you. Sometimes that means taking a little bit of a leap of faith. But I think hopefully this will show that you don't have to feel quite so intimidated about how to solve the puzzle of affordability and just how delicious, your food can be that you put on the table every day.